Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can get more information at our website, which is behind me, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and each week we focus on positive news and information about a lot of good stuff that's happening in Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And here I'm in my Zoom studio, a little beat up, as you can see, had a fall last night, but I'm a trooper and I'm ready with two of my favorite people, and they are Ellen Pappas and Jen Russ. And Ellen already did it. You can wave to everybody. Jen, you can say to everybody who's watching you. And I'd like to mention that we'll be talking about an upcoming show that Ellen is directing at Hendersonville Theater. And that's going to be opening when, Jen, Ellen?
February 1st, a Thursday. As
Okay,
Jen
super.
said, a Thursday.
Okay, a Thursday. Okay. If you can mention, then the show is, Ellen?
The Vagina Monologues.
Okay. And before we talk about that show, which I'm really excited about seeing, let's talk a little bit about the two of you, who I know very well, but some of our viewers might not. And we'll start with Jen. Jen, you've been acting now last several years in the Western North Carolina area. Have you always been an actor?
No, I took to acting later in life in my mid 30s, and it was something I'd always wanted to do. But life took over. I had a family, and when we moved to Asheville in 2007, that's when I stopped working. I had a young child and a husband who had a job from home. So it was a good chance to try something new, try a hobby. And I chose acting, and I loved it.
And talk about the hobby for the benefit of people who might be interested as well. To get into it, did you volunteer? Did you take a course? How do you start acting?
I took a course. My daughter was enrolled as a toddler in the Asheville Arts Center on Merriman Avenue that doesn't exist there anymore, but they offered adult classes there for various dance, music, and adult acting classes. So that was a perfect opportunity. I was at that building anyway on the weekly, and it was a great introduction.
Now, what's cool about this is that, and I met your daughter a couple of times, seen her perform as well. So she got into it much younger than you did. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, yes. She was with me during rehearsals as a 5-year-old and just coloring on stage while mom was rehearsing.
Now, have you ever acted with her?
Yes, we were in the Asheville Performing Arts Academy's public show of Newsies. It was held at Diana Wortham Theater, and I was the adult ensemble, and she was one of the Newsies.
Okay, I'm so
dancing.
sorry. I missed that performance. One of my favorite shows, but
Yeah.
there aren't too many people who can do it because you need to have usually boys, but it doesn't have to be boys who could dance. So I guess you could carry it, but that was super. So that was the first time you were in a show together. Were you ever in a show again after that?
No, but when she's home from college and all throughout her school life, we sing in the same church choir. So we've performed together before on different types of stages.
And is she going to continue? Is she studying acting or going to continue?
No, she is at Chapel Hill studying biology, and she's a sophomore, but she is doing theater on the extracurricular spectrum. So she's actually begun music rehearsals this week for a new show called Firebringer. And instead of acting, she is the assistant music director. So she'll be teaching parts, playing the piano, and helping with the music. Not so much the acting, but the music.
And one final question about her. I assume we will not see her in Vagina Monologues?
Nope. I don't think, not in the show, but I am asking if she could find a ride home and get here.
Okay, great. Okay, and same kind of questions for Ellen, who I know very well, but you started a little bit earlier than Jen, I guess, as a performer. You were not necessarily an actor, but you were a rock singer at one time?
I started actually with acting, but then I went into singing rock and roll music.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had a band in New York City. We actually were the lead-on band for the Grateful Dead once.
Oh my gosh.
We were. And it was myself and five fellows. So then I moved away from acting more into singing. And then I started to go back into acting. And then, like you, Jen, family, house, helping my husband get his law degree, things like this were going on. And so I stepped away from it. I moved to Asheville and I got right back in. But I got into performing. The directing I did in New York was in smaller theaters. And of course, I've been directing here as well as performing, but directing mostly lately.
You remember, Ellen, your very first role as an actor, as a kid?
Oh gosh, the Hansel and Gretel. I was the witch.
Were you really?
I was the witch. I had to go.
But
I had to do
I'm impressed. You remember the role.
Hansel and Gretel.
How-
And then Mikado. I was Yum Yum in the Mikado, and I was probably about 9.
How old were you with the Hansel and Gretel?
Probably about 7.
Okay. Because I have this idea, Jen, I've shared with Ellen in the past too, but somewhere, someplace, somebody should bring everybody together where they recreate the very first roles, so Ellen would be, can you imagine, it's not typecasting Ellen, not
No.
exactly, but you would be a witch. Jen doesn't have a young role kid, but wouldn't that be a fun thing to do, that everybody would just...
Actually, I have a picture of me in preschool, nursery school, as the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz.
Oh, so you held out. So you did have a role as a kid. So
Yes, I did. And I don't remember anything about it except what that picture conjures up in my mind. But I do have that picture. When Ellen brought up the witch,
Well, Ellen,
it reminded me of that.
let's you and I talk about that somewhere down the road, Ellen, especially like at Hendersonville.
Witches unite! Witches unite! Witch power!
But especially at Hendersonville, wouldn't that be a fun fundraiser that everybody would get up and do that very first role? So we'll do that sometime in the future. Anyway, bring us then to the future, Ellen, that I've been very impressed with the fact that over the last several years, you've done some acting, which I love you as an actor, but you're now starting to direct. And what got you into directing, Ellen?
I just think that as an actor, you have a vision of how your character's going to be. I think Jen will agree with me on this.
Mhm.
You know how your character's going to be, and you may have an idea about how the other character should be, but it's not your purview at that time. Your purview is to work on your character. As a director, I think you see the whole vision of the entire story and how you want the whole thing to play out. All the nuances, all the little tidbits that you think are going to be a little more important than other tidbits. And you see all the characters. And for me, it's like when I'm making music or writing music, I see everything. I see everything before it even happens. And so directing works for me. It just works.
Do you have a preference, acting or directing?
I'd rather direct. I grew up with 5 brothers, so it's really nice to be able to tell people what to do.
Yeah. Jen, what Ellen doesn't say though, and I ask a lot of actors who became directors this question, is that the other nice thing, Ellen, about directing is you don't have to memorize all the parts, so.
The funny thing is though,
what?
I think Jen will agree with this if you've sat in that seat and watched everybody together, is after running through it a bunch of times, you're starting to learn all the parts.
Definitely. I've noticed that with you, Ellen, sitting in the house while we try to do our monologues without the script in front of us. We're sometimes calling for help from you. And so you're reading along with us. So it's got to sink in just by reading it so many times.
Yeah.
Well, it's same thing too, Jen, to watch Ellen when she directs her musical review too. It's just so much fun to watch her because, like you said, she's so into it, and they're singing, but she's singing every word, every line, every movement. She just really gets into what she's doing. So I love you, Ellen, as a performer. I feel bad because I miss when you don't perform, but I love you as a director as well. And so talk a little bit then, Ellen, about this particular play. If you can, first of all, just kind of a Reader's Digest summary of what it's about.
It's about female experience, female humanity. It's about our lives. who we are, how we see things, how we perceive things, how life is around us, what our responsibilities are, what our reactions are to life. It's about how we make our way through the world.
Okay. And so you have then, how many women are in the play?
I have three fabulous actors.
And we'll come to Jen.
Fabulous actors.
We'll come to Jen in a second, but the other two women are who?
Cece Blackburn and Natalie Broadway.
Okay. And so the show itself then, age, what would you say would be the age range people should come see it?
I would say, for people who are like 8 or 9, that's a little young. But I would say, I think we were talking about this the other night, Jen, weren't we?
Mhm. Yes, we were.
We were thinking, what, 15 and up,
Yeah,
male
yeah,
and
15 and up.
female?
Both. Oh,
come.
absolutely. And everything in between. This is a show about subject matters that are sometimes taboo subjects, sometimes embarrassing subjects, and a lot of 15-year-old humans have questions, and they're afraid to ask their parents, or they're going to their friends for maybe the truth and maybe invention. But I think this gives people a glimpse into the lives of different women and their stories. And it might answer a question that has been burning in the back of their mind, no matter what age they are.
Now, Jen, I'll ask Ellen the same question, but of you, had you ever
Mhm.
seen this show before?
Yes, I saw it when it was on tour. My husband and I went to see it in Washington, D.C., and it was staged a little bit differently than our show. This was probably back in the early 2000s, and there were approximately 8 women across the stage, where we have a cast of 3.
Okay, we see, I think I've never seen it before, but I understand usually it's a larger cast. And so I'll ask you the same question. Had you ever seen it before or read it?
Yes, I've seen it staged several times with a larger cast. I, of course, looked it up with Eve Ensler the first time I saw it. And originally, she did all the parts herself,
Oh.
which was a monumental endeavor. But I have 3 really strong actors, because there is a poignancy and an intensity to this play. It is powerful. It is a powerful play with powerful messages. And to have 3 actors of the caliber that I was lucky enough to have walk in to the auditions is really going to make this play something special.
Now, you, I guess, made the decision. So you could have had one person conceivably do it, but you could have had 8. Was it written for 8 people initially?
Originally, it was written just as Eve Ensler was presenting it by herself, I think, to just see where it went, to get a feel for it. And then I think when she was originally licensing it out, when she had copyrighted it and was licensing it out, she was a lot more flexible. But of course, we have to live within whatever the contracts allow. And we are allowed 3 actors. And as I said, I'm very pleased and lucky that I had the right 3 actors walk in.
So when staging it, so you were only allowed to have 3? Is that what she recommends? Have 3 actors in it?
Yes, in this particular production, yes.
Okay. And I'm curious, Jen, since Ellen mentioned you just kind of walked in at the audition, talk a little bit about the process. Did you prepare specifically with a monologue from that play, or how do you prepare the audition for this play?
Yes. If I remember correctly, we were, when we signed up to audition for this particular show, they did send out some excerpts of the monologues that they wanted to see us perform. And so we did get to pick and choose from a finite set of audition pieces or sides. And so I chose a couple that seemed to speak to my age, my experience. And then once I performed them, not knowing how the director was going to want to see that, in my own interpretation. And then I was lucky enough to get a call back, and Ellen assigned me a particular monologue, an entire monologue to perform at that time.
Had that been the monologues you're going to be performing next month? Had that been any of the ones you had done at the audition?
Yes, the one Ellen assigned to me. It was not one that was offered initially, and then during the callback, she said, "I want to see you deliver this one."
Okay.
And I did, and I'm doing it in the show. So I guess
And-
it was pretty good.
You know,
And I would
you-
like to say that at auditions, one person came in at the original audition and did not use the side. Absolutely just delivered the monologue. And that person was Jen.
and
She
you and I have talked about this.
Everybody else used the side. She didn't. She came in and she just, here it is.
Ellen, you and I have talked about this, about the process. So one of the toughest things I imagine as director is having to go through auditions, and especially, can I ask you approximately how many women came out for the show?
Well, it was a general audition, so there were over 100 people, but I would say probably about 35 auditioned for, this particular show, put down that they would like to be involved in this particular show.
That must be tough.
35. I was able to whittle it down a little bit, but I think I was hopeful that we could cast more than 3, but of course we have certain constraints, and but I knew probably after the first audition where I needed to be, and I
Yep.
had an idea of who.
That must be
who
tough
was
for you as
going
a
to-
director, and you and I have talked about this as a performer, but to have to go through the audition process, it's tough for Jen as an actor, but for you as a director, it must be a challenging task to have to sit through this and then to tell people, I guess it's exciting when they get the part, but to tell people they don't get the part, that's the tough part of what you do.
Well, as someone who's auditioned myself many times, and now I'm older, I can audition for the old back parts. No more ingenue, but you need the great grandmother. I'm here. I'm your girl. But I know what it's like to not fit. As a director, you have a bandwidth. I think Jen knows this because the first time I saw Jen was in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Oh, yeah.
Streetcar.
Oh, Streetcar. Oh, you're right. It was.
Close enough. Same difference.
See, I'm an old bat. My memory.
That's okay.
Streetcar, and she knocked my socks off. And it's the first time I saw her. So I had a bandwidth in mind, and I think all directors do. You kind of say, this is the feel I want. This is the look I want. This is the temperament I want. This is the attitude I want. And somebody will walk in and they will fit right into that bandwidth. And that makes it easier. And there are times that I know I've auditioned and I just haven't fit into the director's bandwidth. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but you know that not every role is going to be the role for you. Not every role is going to be where you really fit and you really shine and you make the play shine.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you've bombed your audition if you don't get that part. It's just you weren't what they had in mind.
By the way,
That's all it is. That's it.
We're going to change something, Ellen, on your part, because I'm looking at the screen here and I see red, and we're going to have to change your name on the name of the it's no longer red, so you no longer can have the redhead parts, I guess.
No
Anymore.
longer number 42.
So, Jen, let me ask you the question in terms of as an actor, and I'll ask Ellen as well. So in terms of going out for a play, be it recommending it to your daughter or to anybody else, how should actors prepare for an audition?
Well, for a dramatic play, rather than a musical, there are requirements posted by the theater. And let's say that you're required to do a monologue of your choosing. My advice would be to choose a monologue that speaks to you, that rolls off the tongue, that is age appropriate, is a good representation of the type of character or the temperament of the character you're going for. You do not necessarily want or need to choose a monologue from the show you're auditioning for. The directors really want to see your range and not you trying to fit yourself into the role you're going for.
And Ellen,
My personal preference is to memorize, whether it's a monologue you've chosen or something that they have given to you either right at the audition or not. And just to go in there and make choices, make big choices, whether it's the one the director will eventually go with. They want to see that you have confidence.
and same question, Ellen, in terms of this show, I guess you had the monologues from this play they were reading. Is that correct?
Yes.
But ordinarily, if somebody asks you for advice to do a monologue, what do you tell them?
I would match what Jen says, go and find something that's similar to the role that you think you're going to fit in, the right temperament, age appropriate, energy appropriate, something that speaks to you, something that you can feel, that really you feel this is, something that's similar to what is going on in that production. And that's what you choose. I really wanted I wanted to hear people and the actors do actual monologues from this show because of the nuances in this show, because of the energy of this show, because of the message. There are messages throughout this show. So I thought having someone deliver an exact monologue, or as Jen said, an excerpt of a monologue, so that I could see this is an important message. This is an important story. Can this person deliver and let us see the depth and the importance of this story? And so I wanted sides from this show to be part of the audition process.
One of the things I've always loved about you, Ellen, as a performer, is that you can do certainly drama, but you can also do musicals, you can do a comedy. Do you have a preference as to, I guess, both performing and or directing? What do you like doing best?
Directing, I love directing anything. Performing, while I've done dramatic performances, I love comedy because I'm a ham. I'm a big ham. And, I think I'd like to be a combination of Betty White, Lucille Ball, and Rosalind Russell, kind of all rolled into one. Maybe Carol Burnett too. I love the comedy and, of course, music. Music, it like flows through my veins. One of the things I was directing the other night, and Jen will remember this, I was saying, this is what I'm hearing as far as the pacing. And I'm literally hearing the metronome in my head, pacing on certain parts, and describing it to them and saying, but, this is the musician in me hearing what the rhythm should be. How
the beat.
Yeah, the beat. Yeah. So I love musical comedy to perform. I love comedy to perform, but directing, I love directing.
And Jen, the same thing too. And I've had the pleasure of seeing you in a bunch of things. Do you have preference as to what you're acting in?
I do like those dramatic roles where it's a little bit different than the normal me, who is upbeat, smiley, bubbly, but to bring it down and to embody someone who's struggling or someone who is serious. I think that is an example of what I enjoy doing, is outside of who I am. That's, I think, the beauty of acting, is that you can do something different. I have had a lot of fun playing comedies where I didn't think that me normal is quite funny, but when you work with the cast and you get to know them and you deliver the lines, maybe you have to play, drunk a little bit. And when the audience responds, oh, that is such nectar. You just want more and more of that. And so I like roles that stretch me a little bit. And I think that, well, I know that the Vagina Monologues is one case I will always come back to as something that stretched me.
As you're
And
talking,
I will say this, I just want to say that she delivers pieces that are very intense and pieces that are very, very funny. And so she's stretching throughout this particular production in this play. She's stretching.
well,
Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that, Ellen, because I didn't realize that, I know it's a drama, but it's good to know there's some humor in the play as well.
a lot.
Yes,
Okay. And you
a
think,
lot.
even though it's the name of the play itself, guys will enjoy it as well?
I would say, and Jen, I'm going to ask you how you feel about this after I say.
Okay.
I would say if men walk around going, if there's a man who says, I don't quite get it. My wife says, or my girlfriend says, or my daughter says, and I don't quite get it. I would say, come see this because this will help things click, and you'll go, I got it. Now I
Yes.
understand.
I'm glad you said
Yes,
that.
it'll be quite enlightening for them.
Will George be up for this one? Will he come up?
Believe it or not, he's flying in.
So he'll,
He's flying in for the weekend to see this.
great, looking forward to him. And Jen, I'll just have you talk about one other play that I remember you. I've seen you in musicals, I've seen you in lots of things, but Ellen never had the pleasure of seeing you, I think, the very first time I saw you in Western North Carolina, and that was the King and I,
Oh,
And
yes.
and I'll mention Ellen too. The one other talent Jen has, that if you ever want somebody to sweat, Jen is the woman to have that role, in terms of not just you, Jen, but that we saw the play before Parkway, I think, had air conditioning, and you had
Oh,
these costumes on, and such a big cast, and it was and the night was really hot. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And there was a lot of makeup and wigs and kids running around because of all the children that were portrayed. But a lot of heavy dress costume
Yeah,
pieces.
it was really hot in there too. It was such a
Yep.
great show. So if you're ever looking for somebody, Jen's that part too. Great,
Can
great.
work under temperature conditions. Varying.
That was tough. Talk a little bit, both of you would then. So this runs, Ellen, again, give the dates and ticket information, all that good stuff.
February 1st through February 11th. Jen, go ahead, give the theater information.
Yes, it's at the Hendersonville Theater, and you can find tickets on hendersonvilletheater.com. And there is a ticket link. All their shows are listed in order of date throughout the year, and you can purchase tickets for our show, of course, and then for any show in the future that they're putting on.
But this show you mentioned that, I'm surprised it opens on a Thursday night, Ellen, you said?
Yes.
So is the run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or when is
Yes.
the run?
Yes, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay,
Normally the shows run 3 weekends.
right.
And I think the fact that this is running 2 weekends, adding that extra day in, I think is a very, very good idea.
No, I'm really
It's a
glad.
very good
It's
idea.
such a shame. Hendersonville, in large part, you've helped with it, other people have, has done a tremendous job coming back. I mean, they're really putting on great shows, great performances. But just a word to anybody listening, get tickets early on this one. Everybody always says that. But the last couple of shows, Ellen, I've seen at Hendersonville, they've been sold out. Yeah, everyone.
Sold out.
And this only
Absolutely.
I just want to say this. I'm going to say the name. Victoria Lambert is their
Yeah.
artistic director. And I will say that she has elevated this theater
Absolutely.
and brought it along to a totally new level. Hendersonville Theater is a must. You've got to go see what they're doing. You've not just this show, as Jen said, all of their shows. You've got to go see what they're doing. It is not the same old, same old. It is fresh, inventive, edgy, creative. Yeah.
And nice thing too, just about anywhere in the theater, you're going to have a good seat. It's just a beautiful little theater to come to. And I guess I'll ask a last question, Jen. After Vagina Monologues, do you have anything else in the works you can share?
Fingers crossed. I'm auditioning for a second time for a future Hendersonville Theater show. I don't want to
Okay,
jinx myself, but I'm hoping to be back on that stage this year. And so that's what I have going on.
okay. Same thing, Ellen, after we get directing this one, do you have anything else in the works you can share?
Yes, I am directing Over the River and Through the Woods at ACT's lower level, TAP, the Autumn Players. I will be directing that in April.
Okay. If I could just give,
And I will be stage managing Belle Barth at Hendersonville Theater, which is happening in March.
if I could just give you a compliment to Ellen too, that one other thing Ellen does is, if you think about stage reading, you should put those thoughts out of your mind, because if Ellen's involved in a stage reading, it's unlike any other stage reading you'll see. And just
Oh,
a
good.
compliment to you, because I'm not a big fan of those usually. When I see yours, they're really spot on. So,
Because I don't do classic readers theater. I
Right.
stage it.
but she really does. And I don't know, Jennifer, if you ever seen her stuff, but people get
I'm
dressed
going
in
to keep that in mind.
yeah, people get dressed in costumes, and they're really well
And there's-
done.
Yeah, it's staged. I stage it.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I'd like to thank you both for being my guests on this edition of the BLAINESWORLD webcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. Hopefully we'll see you both at Vagina Monologues and many times in the future. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Blaine.
Thank you, Blaine. Bye, everyone.